What can CITEZW do for you? The Center for Innovation and Technology offers a business opportunity to engage directly with your market online. We also offer media training workshops, live streaming, documentary production, and events management. For more information, visit our website and social media platforms. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. With CITEZW, you'll never miss a thing.
Going forward, but that's the team that drives this project. Like the Honorable Minister has said, this is a project funded by Africa Development Bank, actually funding, you can take your seats, thank you. Actually funded by the African Development Bank, facilitated by the government of Zimbabwe to the tune of 37 million. And we are the first local authority to be given the status of an implementing entity. In other words, most donor-funded projects, they're actually implemented by the banks themselves. But with the Bulawayo project, we're given the opportunity to actually go out and procure the various contracts that we require and actually implement the various contracts that we require to drive the project through. And the success of this project actually then determines maybe the pace that government will then take looking forward. So the success of this project is very critical for the future investments of the projects coming through. I'll go to the projects in detail. I think my colleagues up here, the presentation is also on the screen there, so we'll see it as we go through. The objectives of the project, like the mayor and the minister have said, is to improve water supply and sanitation services, contributing to the well-being of the people of Bulawayo. That is the main objective of the project. With these major outputs being to improve access to municipal water, reduction in environmental pollution from sewerage flows, and obviously improving the utility efficiency in how we do the business within the city. And it also talks to stakeholder involvement, which is why we actually here to say, as we drive the project, for sustainability to be there, the stakeholders have to be part of the project, understand what is going on, so that, because they have a role in terms of sustainability of the services that will be provided by the service. In many aspects, mainly our ability to pay, our responsibility not to vandalize the systems that have been put in place, and obviously community education becomes one of the key pillars of this project. The project budget is at 37 million, of which 90% of that project is actually contributed by the AFDB facility. And the 10% is actually contributed by the city, mainly through our provision, mainly of offices. Actually, the contribution is mainly in kind, provision of offices, the provision of our time on the project, like the PIT team that is there, actually logs its time when we're actually working on the project. We also, of major importance, is the provision by the community of Country Park in terms of their contributions towards the laying of the sewers and the water reticulation that was actually being done within Country Park. We'll get to details to that. The project commenced on 28 January in 2016, and this completion target is December 31 in 2020, which is what our target is. So hopefully by this time next year, we should have closed this project. Then the major outputs of the project is our water mains renewal. I'm sure we're all aware that we continue to have serious pest within our system. And the project initially targeted to do 113 kilometers of water mains renewal. But because of the funding constraints, that was now only reduced to 23 kilometers of renewal and only 2 kilometers of upgrading. Upgrading mainly to meet pressure challenges, especially in Nkulumane and Phumula. It also looks at improvement of our water treatment works to increase our current capacity from 150 megaliters on average to almost 180 megaliters, and also improve on the quality of water that we deliver throughout the system. We pride ourselves on the quality of water that we deliver as a city. It also to increase our treatment capacity of the area that we call Southern Areas Treatment Works, EKAMI, to increase its treatment capacity from current 6 megaliters per day to 21 megaliters per day. Actually, and also improve on operational efficiency. And why we're targeting the Kami water treatment works is that the sewerage that goes there is actually domestic sewerage. And there is potential to actually recycle these 21 megaliters of water for other uses, which within the project there is a study that will look at using the secondary water for both agricultural purposes and also as secondary water for industry in their processes. And one such targeted industry is the rehabilitation of the power station, which requires almost about 11 megaliters of water per day. And if we can harness 21 from as reclaimed water, that means we will have saved 11 megaliters of water per day towards provision for domestic consumption. The rehabilitation of the sewer network of most 27 kilometers of outfall sewer to improve sewerage flow and reduce environmental pollution. So these are the major outputs of the projects going forward that we'll be looking at. The slides that I've shown there are actually showing where we are in terms of the project, various projects that we deliver. And maybe what is critical are just note the colors. Where we're showing an amber color, it shows we think we are on target. Where we're showing a green, we are on target. Where we're showing a red, we think we'll be on target. Initially, the project was meant to end by 31 December 2019. What was actually spilling over was what was showing what was going to go into 2020, because that was our original target. But we're happy to say most of the contracts have been awarded. I'm sure you can see we're actually within the green and amber areas, meaning those projects that are in the green and amber areas, we should actually complete them within the first quarter of 2020. And the projects that are in the red will actually drag us at most to October 2020, meaning that will be on target to actually close the project before the end of the project year, which is December 2020. Going forward, just to show the physical progress on the project, and the bars that are shown, your blue bars, are showing what we say was the planned project. That was when we awarded contracts. This is where we expected to be. Like the first contract, which was G01/1, mainly is the rehabilitation of the water, of the pumping system in Ncema and Fenil. That was awarded, but its target completion is February 2020. But most of that work will have to be done off the city because it's manufacture of those pumps, and those pumps are actually manufactured to specifications. And we expect the manufactured pumps to be delivered before the deadline of February 2020. The next project, where we're showing that our planned progress was 44%, we're currently at 16%. is the water mains upgrading and renewal, and also replacement of water meters, which probably I'll dwell on when we come to that. We targeted that we should be at 44%, but presently we're sitting at 16%, mainly because this is a non-revenue water strategy. We're trying to reduce the losses within the system. So the project had a component where the contractor has to come on the ground, evaluate what the consultant has actually indicated as potential savings in terms of water losses, and also confirm those studies by the consultant, which is why probably the project has taken a bit of long. But those reports have not been finalized, and the contractor has been given given the go-ahead to start on the implementation of the project. We expect that it will be speeded up to actually meet our completion deadline. Then W03 is actually our project for hotspots in the Nkulumane Ngeta area, which is looking at amabhuma that we're seeing in Nkulumane Ngeta areas. Initially, the scope was that the project will look at the main outfalls within the Nkulumane Ngeta area that feeds to Ikami water treatment works, SAST, and then do the hotspots across the city. But again, because of financial constraints, the project was then limited to the Kami Sewerage treatment works catchment area. Hence, most of the hotspots will actually be done in those areas, while the city, with its own internal fund, continues to do other areas using other resources, especially the internal resources that it has. Then W04 is actually our water treatment rehabilitation works at Criterion. That's a project that is on target, so we are almost 95% complete. Actually, now it will be slightly delayed because on the implementation of the project, which probably when we go out there after lunch, you will see the challenges that we experience. There has been some requirements for additional works because of what was actually observed when we actually did the famous shutdown, which closed the water system for almost 7 days with people without water. There are other works that then emerged that needed attention so that the project is done to its full potential. Then W05 is actually our sewer mains sewer mains project in Country Park, mainly to provide for outfall sewers in Country Park, which is a Hlalane Kuhle project. I've always said the Hlalane Kuhle project, when I compare it to Gwanda, is 3 times the size of Gwanda. Our Hlalane Kuhle project is 15,000 properties that had no sewer, no water, and no access to roads. And whenever the city can get funding, actually those areas is being given a priority. And our progress on that should have been at 54%, but currently we're sitting at 46%, mainly because we encountered some rock in those areas. Then, not the least project, but that's the W06, which is work at Southern Areas Treatment Works, which I've been referring to as Kami Sewerage Treatment Works. That project is at 16%, and currently our target should have been 44%. But mainly this has been challenges on the contractor to access bank guarantees that were not easy to get before the project actually got its national status, which actually caused a delay in some of the projects that I'm talking about. Our next slide is looking at on the financial progress on the project, where our target is that we should have spent almost 57% of the funds that have been allocated. But currently, in terms of expenditure, we're sitting at around 23%, and overall on the project. And in terms of disbursements, we are actually sitting at around 32%. But like I said, some of the projects are procurement of plants and equipment, which when they are delivered and we pay for those, especially our GO01/1, that will actually escalate the cost rapidly, because it's almost a $7 million contract, which at the moment we can only release those funds when the pumping equipment has been finally delivered to the city. I'll then just quickly take you through what exactly informed why we're working on those projects. I thought instead of explaining, you can see the pictures of your current state of equipment. This is your pumping equipment at Ncema and Fenil, which we rely on as a city. As such, that's why every other time we'll be sending a message to say, siyaxolisa zakhamizi amanzi asozafike ngenxa ukuthi impompi sezifile. These are the challenges that we're expecting as a city. And this is the old pumping equipment that has been on the ground, which we actually are working on those projects that I've already talked to. And within that is also our motors and our controls, meaning most of the controls that are there were put at the time when the plant was actually put in place, and they are as old as the plant is. And they've never been replaced over the years, and this has been the opportunity for us to actually replace that equipment so that we move on forward. We're hoping when we call this session next time, we'll be showing the new pictures of what has been done on the ground, so that we see that ayimali lana umeya lama officials like abazange bayithathe bayifake esikhwameni basitshengisa umtshini owawukhona sebesitshengisa osufakiwe, because nxa silitshela nje ngamehlo liyabe sithi. So we want to say next year when we hold this city, we show you the pictures of what was there and what we are going to deliver. Then within the project, again, we have to improve on our isolators. Every time normally we have challenges with ZESA, you find our pumps are actually affected, our pumps and motors are affected. So within the project, there's actually a bypass so that we're able to isolate our breakers for maintenance, so that when one breaker is actually faulty, we're able to isolate that and continue pumping using the other. So within the project scope, there's actually this project that we call the breakers, the isolators. And again, that's equipment that is currently there, which we're saying is the old breakers that are on the ground. And those are the old controls that are on the ground, which the projects actually look at actually changing, so that when we discuss this later on, we can see the movement of where we were and where we expect to be by end of December 2020. Then the project that I talked to was the water mains upgrading. Again, in this project, we said we will be doing surveys in the areas that are actually affected by the project, and those people that are within what we call the Makwekwe and Criterion Reservoir areas. I'm sure you have heard abantu bebuya ezindlini beqoqoda besithi sicela ukubona imeter yakho, what is this condition, does it work, is it not vandalized, did it stop, is it missing, and trying to also get even the data about us. We can say we've made some good progress on that, but abantu bayala lama number. You know, people were not willing to give us their contact details. But all those things actually were saying we need information about our customers. And when we are going forward, we are expecting that we should be able to say I've got a best in this area. And by an SMS, abantu kubuye bafonini ukuthi in this area I've got a best and amanzi azaba shut down without having to make a public advert. So when we're asking for that information, we are not saying that we use that information ukuvala amanzi kuphela. But we use it for even communication. I think that's the reason why people were not willing to give us information, because they thought we just want to use that information to harass them in terms of you have not paid your bills and all sorts of things. But it's trying to enhance communication between us and the stakeholders going forward. So the area that we are showing there is actually the area where we are actually doing the door-to-door assessment of our meters and getting the customer data. And this is mainly funded through the project. But within the same project, we have got a project that we call Water Works. It's again another supportive project that is looking at us improving the metering within the city. I talked about Country Park water connections, where in Country Park at the moment people collect water from standpipes, and we realize sometimes maybe no longer just for domestic use. I think even for brick molding or for selling to other people. If you want to sell water, you now go to Country Park and pick water from the standpipe and then charge people $50 per load. So in Country Park, there is a backlog of meters in those areas. And within the project, the BWSSIP project, we had an allocation of 4,600 meters that we have to put on the ground before the project. And a supporting project under Waterworks has provided 7,769 meters, which will bring our total to almost about 14,000 meters, meaning that by the end of this project, the whole of Country Park will have been metered so that people can actually use what is within their allocations and what they will be paying for. Because at the moment they are collecting from standpipes and no one pays, so that is actually pushing what we call our non-revenue water very high. I think these are just the data collection teams that I was talking for. The non-revenue water study logging to check what our flows are on the ground and what is happening during the night in terms of water pressure, because the reason why we always have high losses is that our pipes burst at night. No one has seen a pipe breaking. Every morning we only find the drainage is now flowing. It's because our pressure at night is very high. So some of this data logging is actually to identify those areas with very high pressures so that we can put in devices that will manage pressure automatically during the day and during the night and minimize on the best that will actually be getting, oh my apologies for that, that will be actually be getting on that. So those are the teams actually working on the ground doing that data logging. And as you can see, those are the data collectors, of which the data collectors, we tried to make them community-based. They were actually employed from within the communities. I know we should have wanted to employ in each and every word that we were reading, but there's quite a lot of training that is involved. So those that we trained were actually used throughout the project. I talked about the data collection. The area in gray is actually the data collection that has been done through the BWSSIP project. And I talked about another intervention, which is the Waterworks project. It has done the area that is in shaded pinkish, I'm not so sure on the board if it's clear, mainly covering just Ntumbane and Sizinda. And as a city, we then said we should learn from this project. And we internally then covered almost the whole of the city. So we're saying almost throughout the city, we've gone around, done data collection in terms of our working and non-working meters and those that have been vandalized. And we now know where there are vicious dogs and and the razor wires where we cannot go in. And all that information then allows us to interact with stakeholders to say, if you have put in a razor wire, please, by this date, just give us your meter reading, so that one day we can come when you are there and we open the gate and see whether your reading is true or not, or whether the meter is working. But we have actually tried to harness all this data within the project, both in terms of internal funding and also the funding that has come through from the Africa Development Bank. The project in terms of water mains renewal will look at actually replacement of meters in various areas. And one of the major changes will be that instead of putting the meter at the back of your yard, because in the past there were no Jura walls. If a pipe burst behind the yard, amaza esikhambela through ingoja achitheke kuphela. But khathesi abantu sesafaka amajura wall ukuthi amanzi angadubuka kuyakho iyadi omakhelwane bavalile izikhala zonke. Nguwe lawe lamanzi akho. Causing actually flooding in some of the properties. So within the project, we're actually moving some of the meters, actually most of the meters where we will lay new pipe work into the street. In other words, we will then now have a long connection, even a logichin. And at the moment, our long connections are sema eastern areas, but now the meter will have to be closer to the gate. Our wish actually was to put the meter outside the gate, phandle. But kumele sizwe izakhamizi zithini ingaphila singayifaka phandle. Maybe these are things that probably we want to look at when we go to plenary, ukuthi imeter vele singayifake yadini, so that nxa sizoba limiter yethu asilani lezinja zakho, asilani lejura wall wakho, siyadlulela phandle siba limiter yethu sihambe. Those are actually the initiatives that we're looking at, so that we can read our meters fully without inconveniencing your privacy. So you can see in that design, you are actually moving from a meter e-water network that is between the houses to a meter that will be in front of the houses. I mean, to a meter that will be in front of the houses. Obviously, it has impact on your land for ukuhlanyela impida, because lapho uhlanyele khona impida uzathola semfake ipipe yami ukuthi yefika ngemva kwendlu yakho. So kumele unanzelele ukuthi ifakwe ngaphi, so that nxa usuhlanyela impida ungahlanyeli phezu kwe service pipe, because that will also now start creating new leakages within the system where people are now hitting the service pipe. And uqala vele service pipe ibinamathele emdulini. So kade so vele bekungela ndlela ongayilimaza ngayo, but now we have to look at all those. So these are the issues that when we're coming to these meetings, we are actually sharing for awareness of the communities as to what is going on. Like I said, we'll be putting in almost about 14,000 meters within the system. While these meters are both written, which they are perfect, what we normally do as a city is that every meter before it's installed is tested to see whether what the manufacturer says it can produce, it does produce. Ngoba imeter phela yithili kamasipalati. Nxa ungela meter utsho ukuthi umasipalati uzithathela mahara. Fana lo ungene shop nje utopa amagwili hlanganisela amakhabishi lani le umuntu adlule ethi ambone ngani kuyimali engaka. But whereas the meter is actually what we consider it as our till. So the accuracy of our meters is very keen. So within the project there is this meter test bench that has been bought and installed. So those 14,000 plus meters that actually has to be installed on the ground will all have to go through this test bench, so that we reject those that we don't believe will meet our standards, and we implement those that we actually be wanting to use on the project. Then the outfall sewers in Country Park, it just shows the slide there just shows on our, not sure whether it's my right, on my right is the outfall sewer network that the project will have to work on in terms of the outfall sewers that need to be done. And we the contractor is already on the ground on that. And on your top corner of my slide, it just shows that the extent of the sewerage coverage within those 15,000 properties that we said are actually under consideration in Country Park. So the yellow actually showing where no sewer is there and the area is already built up. And unfortunately, Country Park is a rocky area. Can imagine sifuna ukudubula amahhola ngemva kwendlu yakho. Because there's no way siyagebha ngayo to hit 4 meters. Usually Country Park, when you just dig about 1 meter, uhluhlangane lo mthombo nje. That's what happens in Country Park. Kule msenya le mthombo. And ungabona kule msenya le mthombo, it means there is an underlying rock very nearby already. But we still have to lay the sewer system between the houses. And as you can see, the yellow area shows agula sewer in all those areas. But unfortunately, I did have my slide to show the picture in terms of housing development. It's almost 80% of all those areas have got now properties that have been built almost to roof level. So the contribution the city that is doing is actually the work that will come from laying those sewers. And the current project is that because the beneficiaries are actually contributing towards the contractor and the purchase of materials in those areas. Like I said in the previous slide, in terms of water reticulation, the BWSSIP project provided the water reticulation pipework and also the meters that I've already referred to. So this is the challenge that we'll be having now to actually meet our 10% contribution that the project requires. It's just showing the site handover of the works and establishing our beacons. Then that shows the rock that we're starting to encounter because of what I've already explained, the Country Park area. It has got a rock lying immediately underneath, which needs to be broken. But fortunately, these are outfall sewers. But being outfall sewers, you realize that they are away from the houses. But we've had a few incidences where when the contractor was blasting, the rocks flew to hit the roofs off. So you can imagine now when we are now digging that 1.5 meters behind your house to actually lay the sewer. But it's a challenge that we will have to work on. Maybe find other technologies that talks to that. I think this is just work that is being done on the same project that I was referring to. Criterion waterworks, I have referred to that. And also, this is the work probably that we will see in the afternoon, but by the time you get there, you won't see the old valves. But here we're just illustrating that, yeah, we did remove the old valve. We didn't refurbish it. We took it out. We'll be sending it for auction, for scrap, so that we know that it was taken out and a new one put in. So that's the work being done, actually removing the old valves that were there. And those are the new valves. So it was over a day, so there's no way we would have taken that one, refurbished it and brought it back. So we removed and put in a new one. So this is the work that was being done at Criterion, which, like I said, we'll have an opportunity to look at in the afternoon. In Criterion, we have installed the new distribution boards. As you can see, the picture on the right is showing the one is now showing greens and ambers and blues. That's now the new equipment that is actually at Criterion, where when you are looking at that screen, you can virtually understand what is happening throughout the whole works within the system. And what is on your left, I hope it's in your left when you're that side as well, is the old board that we had. So you can see what we took out and what we've put in. And all these works were actually done within the 3-day shutdown period that we are actually working on. Then the next one was our backwash pumps, again, where we to take out, dismantle the old ones, put in the new ones, and actually install the new backwash pumps, which we had a challenge when we were actually doing the new backwash pumps, because the valves that were meant while the works were closed, meaning that we don't have to backwash, water then came into the backwash pumps, and that created a challenge during that shutdown. So within the scope of the variation orders is actually to replace some of the bypassing valves that allowed that water to come into the backwash system during the rehabilitation process. So all this work was being done within the 3-day period. Like I said, we have an opportunity to look at that when we go to the works. Then the rehabilitation of the outfall sewers in the SAS catchment and the hotspots, which I had already indicated earlier on, SAS being Kami Sewerage treatment works, where we're targeting that we should be able to recycle some of the work. And within the current project, there's a study that looks at the potential of use of recycled water for industry and also urban agriculture. The hotspots, the contractor and the consultants have actually to identify various areas where we need to deal with these hotspots. The hotspots were saying those are the areas that every time we are slow as Hambi. As Hambi lisale lifona director badlulela baba kuhlokoza sebehambile sokuvalile futhi. So these are the areas that we define as hotspots, so that we come up with lasting solutions within those interventions. So those are areas that I'm just highlighting on the map that look at those hotspots that have been identified within the Nketa Nkulumane, Sizinda, Mganwini areas that we have to tackle within the project, so that we were hoping that by October 2020, Nkulumane akumelanga kube lebhuma. In other words, the streams should be dry in October. We want that to be our measure, which is full of zonke zomile abantwana bayasichaphela ngoba tesathe sokulama project okudinga ama bridge over the streams ukuthi abantwana beqe over the sewer, whereas the whole idea is for us to eliminate the sewer kube lesikhathi ukuhambani lekhupha amabhume emgwaqweni, impukane, iminyane, spray iminyane manje nxa we spray amanzi lakho egeleza vele we are not adding any value. So the whole idea is that we need to eliminate those blockages once and for all, and obviously to talk to the community in actually being assisting on that. So within the project, we'll also upgrade those sewer lines to meet the current congestion that are there within the areas. That just shows the rubbish that we take out of the sewer system. This was in Pumula, outfall sewer, where the sewer system is not collapsed, but it's totally choked because of what we throw in. And okunye singalahlelang ngabomo, but you can see the spoons. Unfortunately, when we're doing this, we took out the spoons, but you can still see some of the spoons. Leziyana ezindala, leziyana eziqinileyo. Antes of these days, ungathi uyahwaya umphika, ziyahle zigobe. But lezi esizikhupha la, vela zigobe. Izo zona leziyana ezakudala, the original spoons, as a stainless steel. So, why is that pale ezindlini? Is because they went with the sewer system. Sesiyathenga futhi ezinye from amaChina. Whereas with an opportunity to keep those, they will still be working even Katesi, but they have been consumed by the sewer system. And what do they do to the sewer system? They then clog the sewer system. Meaning, ezindlini zethu nyembona abantu uthasa mense wachela segezela imganu phandle lomphika sugezisa kupu nxa usujika uze kwekwe asuhambile kuyini okuyispoon. And khonapho le gali selakhupha. And nxa sipasisa building plan iyabile egali trap. Ingafa siyayibisela sesifaka kulilitshe nje ukuthi nje kungani kungawela umntwana kuphela, but okunye konke kuyangena. Sivuke kuseni sithanyela igalisa round liyana vele kayisekho endlini eziningi. And the reason why we are sharing this information is that where your problems, as city director, is coming from us, the consumers of the service. As engineers, we should have maybe within the survey, we might have to, we should have missed that one during our survey. We should also have surveyed whether are there gully traps in those houses that we went through, so that we identify how many don't have gully traps. And we work in a program to actually put in those gully traps and the gullies around, so that we does tanyelele without affecting what goes into the sewer system. So inhlabathi yonke le is coming from the behavior singasabali nje le yokukhahla ngenxa ukuthi ivimi isidura everyone sekukhuhla ngani ngenhlabathi. So nxa usukhuhle ngenhlabathi kungcono ungakhuhla uyakaza uthele engadini usuqedisa usurinsa. Kodwa la kunxa usurinsa ubona ukuthi vela kusela chebe ngoba umunye yathi yami ilutshwana ngifake ispoon kuphela. But izipunu zingavele ezindlini ezingu 3000 they accumulate to become a challenge, and then they block the system. So this is the work that we are finding in your sewers when we start. This is what is happening on the ground. These are the works that are currently going on where we are actually removing those, where the lines have collapsed, we are actually removing those and putting in new ones. That's a new pipe that has been laid in some sections of Pumula. And what is said is that some of those lines have already clogged before the contractor even goes away. And one of the challenges that we have realized is that abantu bawafuna mazla ayesuwa. Abantu bawafuna manzi esuwa. But ikabafuni block. So probably we need to start thinking what can we do to actually look at those alternatives, because the realization is that people need this water. Ukuthi imbuzi zinathe njoba komile these days ababuyela zobevele ekhaya. No matter what you try to do with the sewer lining ever go Davis granite, it will always be choked because imbuzi zidla kunapana, meaning the people need that water for other livelihood issues. I think we're in Machovani where there are 91 people that are actually cultivating along the sewer line. And they are complaining that the sewer is choked. But sebela mapowolo atutuma ngenxa yokuthi sewer iblokile in the area so that they can do their vegetables. So obviously we are saying we have to look at alternatives, and we're currently putting a project together where we can see whether we can start treating that sewer nearby so that people can actually then use that water, because we're realizing as you continue rehabilitating the sewer line, waze likhiye njani imenholo they always find into ekhiye ngumuntu injani iyavulwa ngumuntu one way or the other, ungeke wakhiye ukuthi umuntu engangeni totally unless uzofaka i-alarm lo faucet manje kungaba nzima for across the city. These are the works, it's southern areas treatment works, which are already ongoing, where we're saying this was before rehabilitation, and these are the bypasses so that we are able to work within those areas. These are the chambers being actually done for isolation of these floors as they come in. This is work in progress already at southern areas sewerage treatment works. So within the project, we also want to improve on our customer care, which is where we want to manage our customer relations. And this is exactly what we were saying. We wanted the interaction between ourselves and the communities, information about who stays there, what are the contact details, so that within that system we're able to actually serve you better. It's not for tracking you, but it's to serve you better. So we'll be combining, within the scope of the project, we're trying to combine our GIS, which is mainly the mapping of the city in terms of stand properties. We want to combine that with our accounting system, which we call the BIQ. So that now for our city corner, isweep lokile, uniki address. From that address, on a click of a button, call center, iyakwanisa ukuthi ihlibone ukuthi siyabonga baba ukuthi Ndlovu fonile kodwa i-record yethu lapho ithi lagcina ukubonakala kumasipalati 10 months ago. Anyway, sizathumela i-team izothini izohlokoza, but lathi besicela la uthini ube i-responsible citizen ukuthi lathi sikwanise ukukuseva ngcono. So that's the whole idea of this integrated system that tries to actually bring information together so that we're able to serve you better, but at the same time we're able to engage almost directly with those that call us. It's not wish hunting, but nxa uhlala edrobheni as a citizen wavela wasayina ukuthi nxa uconnect imeter uzathini uzabubhadala. So the whole idea with this system is that it will integrate those systems so that from the call center it also talk to our operations team ukuthi nxa sebephumile bese respond to this fault, we're able to see where they have gone and what they have done, and when they are done they should close the system ukuthi that fault has been attended to. But obviously this talks to us improving also on our payments because sometimes they expect the call center. The call center vele kayenzi lutho. But the call center lana vele is useless ayenzi lutho. Vele call center is for receiving messages. It won't repair the choke. The choke or the best will be repaired by the operational teams. That requires resources that come from us, some stakeholders. And if those resources are not there, they will take time to actually be able to respond effectively to those calls. So within the project, we are actually looking at that, and we believe it will take us to be one of the best utilities within, or rather to maintain our current standing as the best utility in the country. Having said that, we have projects that we have actually had to put on hold because the money then ran out. You know, when we started, we thought 37 million was a lot of money. But we had to put a few projects on ice, and later on, those projects we have to shelve, meaning we now need more money to actually take this project to where we want it to be. There are projects that were ready, went to tender, but because of resources that were available, we're not able to award. Mainly the reservoir valves and flow meters, which were actually estimated at almost about 1.1 million to actually do that. And this was actually looking at replacing all our inlet and outlet valves at our reservoirs. We have almost about 7 distribution reservoirs within the networks, which are almost due for replacement. We struggle to close them and we struggle to open them. And we're worried that one day we'll try and open one and it never opens, especially in a load shedding lay that we do, where sivula sivala. Some of our valves, because of that, are now in need of emergency maintenance. And the other one was the telemetry and the SCADIA, which will actually talk to our reservoir levels and what is happening within the reservoirs. I'm sure recently we had the challenge eMagwegwe in that nxa siyacheka benika ama statistics eMagwegwe ukuthi amanzi anganani amaplumber bafika balunguze then nge-experience abesitambone ngani ku-15 abesithi direct eMagwegwe ku-15 ngoba the device that is there is not functional. So usesebenzisa, I can imagine bona labo charge and labo supervisor bangavuka beretire bahamba bonke. I don't think any one of us will be able to go there and say amanzi anganani la. We'll all be struggling to say. So this is the project that was actually looking at that, to say we are able to know what exactly is flowing into the reservoir. And the other challenge at Magwegwe was again that one of the valves which was saying was within the scope for replacement. It actually gave in. We could not isolate water coming from Criterion. When we realized that Magwegwe was full, it continued pouring into Magwegwe. While we closed it at Criterion, Criterion is almost 20 kilometers away from Magwegwe, and that pipe is a 900 millimeter diameter pipe. It continued fitting because Bulawayo, we don't pump water, we only pump it when it comes from the dams. Once it is in the reservoirs, it just flows like a river. So when a river is coming down and you cannot close it, it will always breach whatever is there. So the total requirement of projects that should have been done after we scaled down initially is about 1.7 million, and we put through a request to the bank. I hope Mamuza Snetisa Sitole enye imali nje okuyi 1.7 US under the current scheme ngoba at least we forex kayichinji. Then you are able to get those materials because many of them actually require a foreign currency input. Then there are projects that were within the project scope in terms of mains upgrading, almost about 5.6 kilometers that we had intended to do. I think like I indicated on the previous slide, we're now just doing almost about 2 kilometers. So there's 5 kilometers of mains upgrading, mainly to improve pressure within the network, because within the project we've identified those areas without sufficient pressure or with insufficient pressure that required intervention. Then we had intended to do almost about 113 kilometers of water mains renewal, and the studies identified the areas where we need to intervene to reduce our non-revenue water. But an investment of almost about 91 kilometers of renewal will need to be done to actually improve on that. Then also, in terms of the budget we're looking at is almost about 12 million. These are over and above the 1.7 million that I've talked about. I think in a nutshell, this is the project and a quick run through it. And I hope I've shared what I could share within the available timelines. I thank you.